It is this one.
Test.
Test. I'm going to do myself a favor here. It's called a slate. I just slated
Yeah.
the episode.
The action of slating.
Yeah. But to answer your question, yes, we are recording. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
That's good. I was going to ask you, what brought you to Finland when you were living there for 2 years?
I was a missionary.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, for my church.
That's cool. So did you live in a certain town, or you said you were all over?
I was all over. I lived in a town called Kemi. That's where I first was, which is kind of between Rovaniemi and Oulu, where your buddy lives and where he's from. And then I was down in Helsinki for a while, and I was just all over the place. Yeah.
That's cool. What did you think of the Finnish people?
I love it. I love them. I love the language.
Can you speak it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Are you fluent?
I was sort of fluent at a time. I'm a lot less so, but I try to stay up with it a little bit.
That's awesome. You hear that, Hank? He can speak your language. Hank is my friend. He's
Hanky?
listening. Henka.
Let's
just had a little FaceTime with him like 2 days ago. It was his birthday. So happy birthday to Hank. It was so funny. He turned 30. And he was like, Alex, I made it. This is my Finnish accent.
Yeah.
I made it 30 years without any physical problems, and 2 days into being 30 and everything hurts.
Welcome, Hank.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I was like, dude, it is all downhill. Yeah, he's a funny dude.
So how's your week been?
It's been fine. I've been a lot of time with therapists.
Oh, okay.
A lot of therapy time. So like Haley and I had our marriage counseling on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Thursday I saw George.
Yeah.
Friday, here we are.
Yeah.
So that part,
Are you on overload?
I mean, I don't know. I was trying to dissect it with George yesterday. I was like, dude, a part of me feels like I just, it's like resistance to therapy. Like I'm therapied out. He's like, yeah, I can see that. That could be,
Yeah.
normal. But what's also interesting is to start out that session, I just was not feeling it. Like just not about it, and everything. I was just kind of sitting in irritation.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that he was saying was annoying me. And like the fact that I was getting annoyed was annoying me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told him that, and we talked about it. And something I landed on was like, I think sometimes going too deep too often, which is ironic given that I enjoy that process, can be exhausting. And I was like, I don't want to be neurotic I don't want to analyze anything for like just an hour, please.
I met with a couple last night. It was an hour and a half that we met. And at the end of it, one of the partners said, I'm physically wiped out from our conversation. Like that happens when you're in a deep emotional state. That can happen. You can get wiped out.
Yep. And he was like offering suggestions. And I stopped him. I was like, I feel like we're doing it right now where we're analyzing. And I mean, he's a very smart guy, but we've exchanged theories that we kind of suffer from the same kind of, we think things over a lot. So we can like rile each other up in terms of thinking about things. And then we pivoted to something else, just an issue I had on my plate. And it like my mood just shifted. And it was like once I started venting frustration I was having with something else, I started to feel better. So this is a very long-winded way of me saying I've been continuing to deal with irritability and just like kind of having a low-grade pissed off I haven't been like snapping at anyone. I don't know. We should call Haley and ask, but I'm pretty sure she'd be like, no, he's been, he hasn't said anything rude, but I just have been in this heightened state of like, I'm sick of everyone kind of. Obviously not you, Dr. Steve. But I thought it might be a good idea to revisit the conversation we had about anger and irritability. And I don't know, I had mentioned maybe that was going to be a 2-parter. And I was like, hey, maybe this is a good time to have part 2 of why is Alex so angry all of the time? Do you watch, are you familiar with are you a fan of the Harry Potter kind of franchise?
I'm familiar with the franchise.
The 5th book, which I'm rereading, and movie, corresponding movie, there is a scene where Harry Potter, in a moment of frustration, says, I feel so angry all of the time. And he's saying that as like, what's wrong with me? And I kind of a little bit feel like that lately.
Identify with that.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes, like you talked about, I'm about therapied out, right? I think that these meetings have been giving me a way of thinking about therapy that I have never thought about it that before. Like, for the most part, I think people go to therapy very goal directed. We're having trouble in our marriage, so let's go to therapy. Or we want to communicate better. Let's go to therapy. Or I'm dealing with this traumatic event. Let's go. I'm going to go to therapy. So I think therapy can be very goal directed, but it can also be the kind of thing, almost like a wellness kind of perspective. Like, this is the thing that I do because it helps me stay grounded, it helps me stay on track, and I do this the way that I go and do a chiropractic adjustment, or the way, like every month and a half or every 2 months, or a dental cleaning. Like I do this, but the rotation is different, right? For dental cleaning, every 6 months period or whatever. It's what I do for preventative measures. It's not so much that I'm goal directed. It's I need a place where I can say whatever I want to think and whatever I'm thinking and feeling, and I just need someone to be there to listen to me and have a sounding board and provide that space. It's like going to the gym.
Yeah.
But there are times you might wake up and go, I'm not going to the gym today.
Dude. Yeah.
And I'm not. I worked out yesterday. Yeah. I worked out the day before that, and I need a rest. And I think this work can be that way as well. That if you're signing up for regular therapy appointments, sometimes you need to say, this is not the week to meet. I just need to be more to myself, and I just need to
I can attest to that feeling.
Not go heavy right now.
And I think it's strange for me because for so long I have benefited so much from therapy, and I've looked at every session as like, oh yay, I'm excited I get to put in this work, that it's weird for me to be in a position now to like be like, I do not want to do this today, because that's a new feeling for me. So yeah, but it definitely is taxing, and that's what George told me too. He was like, I mean, it sounds like you're getting not tired of, but you're feeling exhausted from putting in the work, because every therapy session, you're putting in the work. And I was like, yeah, dude, I am. It is exhausting, but, and he had suggested, he's like, hey, maybe we just spend an hour doing some kind of meditative breathing. We can just sit here in silence. And I was like, George, I don't know if my insurance company would like that, because they're paying big bucks for me to be here. Yeah, but I joke. Yeah.
But your insurance company would be really happy if you did meditative thinking on your own.
Yeah, they would. So yeah, back to the original anger that I have been feeling. I mentioned hockey, and there was something that happened that I think can be reflective of like why I enjoy the sport, but it's also kind of weird to experience. But so we were playing it's just like a weekly skate, so it's not competitive in the sense no one's winning, no one's losing, there's no score, there's no refs, but there's goalies, and it's a pickup game. And the kind of running rule in those is you don't take slap shots. The reason being, that's like the most common injury that rec hockey league players get is they getting hit by the puck, a slapper that can be really painful. So it's like, hey, in competitive, if you're playing an actual game in a league, you'll do it because it quote unquote matters, the game. But here, we don't do it.
Okay.
And a guy who was really good just teed one up and smoked me in the foot. And it was very painful. And the most immediate thought in my head was, why did you do that? You idiot. You know you're not supposed to do that. You did it anyway. I'm going to say something to you. And so I did. Granted, I filtered it a little bit, and in my heat of anger, I said, I really don't think you should be taking slap shots. And he got immediately, that look when like guys are trying to square up and they're like trying to, threat level.
Yeah.
And he was kind of puffing up. He's like, what are you talking about? And so he didn't back down. And I remember I was like, just don't do it. No one else is doing it. Stop doing it. He's like, well, that's just your opinion. Someone else chimed in and was like, dude, just say you're sorry, and move on. And he confronted that guy. And I could feel this urge within me rising to be like, I am going to call this guy out. And it got to the point where I was like, I could see myself fighting this man right now.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I was like, hey, dude, listen, we don't have a problem. Just stop and let's move on. And he was like, okay. But there was a moment in my head where I was like, if we wanted to, we could take this to DEFCON 5. And a part of me wanted to do that. But I didn't, which it was a good thing too. And afterwards, we kind of shook it off and he apologized and blah, 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 blah. But at the risk of kind of being vulnerable here, I have to admit there was a part of me that took pleasure or felt good about that whole exchange because I felt like I was experiencing something that I thought was unfair. And I saw someone who I thought was being a dick and I unfiltered just called him out, released my energy upon him. And that felt good. But it's also scary to think that a part of me was so eager for confrontation that I would have escalated it. I 100%, even when I think about it now, I feel the anger starting to boil up and I clench my fists and I'm like, I could have easily just swatted at the guy or something. And that is, I know that that's not good, but it's there. And thinking about our conversation about anger the last time made me, when I experienced this, I immediately thought of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about anger being a secondary emotion, right?
So is it I was sad, right?
No. Sad, hurt, lonely, scared, right? We just got attacked.
Yeah.
Your body, your primate kind of your evolutionary brain, the libidinal brain that's at your, the base of your brain, the survival thing, that's an attack. Your safety security is under attack. And so you go to that place. To me, it's a survival fight or flight kind of a thing. And in that moment, you have the opportunity to call him out and confront him. You're wielding a stick. You have pads on. It can get ugly really fast. And you have the neocortex, the new brain, the new big center that can override it. Literally, it rides over that part of that brain stem where all those protective.
It physically travels over it?
No. It your new brain, the new brain that we have, it sits on top of all those things. So I like to think about it overrides. It rides on top of it, overrides.
It's literally
that.
Sitting on top of it.
So you talk yourself down, and so instead of saying, "Hey, you're being a jerk," you say, "Hey, I don't appreciate that," and "Hey, can we keep it down? We kind of have an unwritten rule." You can. Those are all the logical things that you can explain and use your words, as we tell kids to do. Right? Use your words, and so you did exactly. And when you think about it, that protective part of your brain can access that part of being under attack, and it's still that survival part of us is still wired to protect. So to me, hugely normal kind of reaction.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because I think what kind of makes me a little uncomfortable is, so when I was younger, not loved, but like I never stopped that. If I felt that kind of rage, I would go with it and I'd lean into it. So if I, for example, like roughhousing or something, or like if someone was like being a dick or like teasing me, I would just be like, all right, I'm escalating it. Yep. And I would, I'd never like, it wasn't like fist fighting, like punching in the face, that kind of stuff, but I would like attack people. I'd like throw them on the ground. I'd like, disarm them, quote unquote. And I think that like adrenaline rush of like fight or flight confrontation became like a norm for me. And so even today, I have a lot of trouble controlling it. I do, but sometimes I don't. Like, do you care if I swear? Does that bother you?
I don't care if you swear.
Okay, great. So there are times where playing hockey, like I have lost it and I've been like, what the are you doing? You piece of like you're a idiot. And I can see people get afraid when I let loose like that.
Yeah.
And then other times people match it, which like that's the danger of losing your cool,
right,
obviously. And like, for example, one time I escalated it and a guy just took his stick and he slashed me so hard in the back. And he hit me so hard that it like, like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but when a warning light goes off in your brain, we're like, okay, we need to back up because we're in trouble here. Like that went off and I had to like backpedal. But I don't know. There's something that's like oddly addicting. I think I'm going to bleep all those curse words out just so I can keep my sponsors happy here. But I just like
all the chiropractors who are sponsoring us.
I see chiropractors sometimes, so it's totally.
Yeah, because you just got hit in the back with a hockey stick. You probably didn't need to be cracked that day. So.
But I feel so much aggression sometimes. And I think back to when I told you, like, the punching bag. Like, the idea of punching something feels therapeutic to me. Do I need to feel ashamed about that? Or, like, is that something I should dig into further? Or, like...
Do I need to feel ashamed? I don't think you need to feel ashamed about it. Do you feel ashamed about it? Like, is it a part of you that you're uncomfortable with? Like I like to think that inside of us, like when I look at the scope of humanity and what is possible, what human beings can do to other human beings. At one end of the continuum, you've got somebody like Hitler, who's calling for the genocide of an entire race. And on the other end of the continuum, you've got a guy like Gandhi, who is embracing principles of nonviolence and trying to reclaim his country from these colonialists who, and we will do this in a peaceful way. Our numbers, the numbers of Indians that there are outlast, will far eclipse the 200,000 British people who are here in India. So, if human beings are capable of Hitler on one end of the continuum and Gandhi on the other end, then I feel like I'm also capable of those things, of that range and that spectrum.
Yeah.
So when people are like, it's just my anger, it's getting the best of me. Well, you can also, you can go with your anger, you can go with those fight or flight responses, or you can override them, and you can let that brain do its job, override the animalistic parts of us.
I think what I struggle with is I enjoy the feeling of engaging with that primal instinct of aggression in the moment. Afterwards, I feel a lot of guilt, and I do not like how I feel afterwards.
Yeah.
I do not like thinking to myself, whoa, I behaved in a way that I never behaved.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel true to who I am as a person.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this catch. I mean, to that end, I feel like what I'm trying to say is I wish I could eliminate it entirely, but maybe it won't be eliminated. Rather, I'll just continue to have to, when feeling those things, be like, all right, big brain, do your thing, talk me down, and resist the urge. Because there's this voice that's like, dude, you got to be a man, like, be aggressive, like.
But I think that for many men, not all men, for many people even, that those aggressive things we sublimate, right? That's a Freudian word about taking certain aggression, certain more base behaviors and tendencies and
Bearing it.
putting them into something that's more socially acceptable. Hockey, for example.
Yeah.
Or for me, it's basketball. I want to compete. I want to put my best up against your best, and I want to rub your face in it at some level. And you and I can still be friends on the other side of it, because it's this thing that's confined to this area. It's confined to the court, and when we step off the court, we're now friends. I mean, I think about this when I see the
wrestling,
not the wrestling. No, it's the MMA stuff.
Oh yeah,
I have a little dyslexia, so WW also can be MMA. If you turn them upside down. Anyway, I'm kidding.
That was a weird joke, weird dyslexia joke.
Yeah, there's not a lot of them out there, and I always get the punchlines in reverse.
Hey,
but I think about those guys who square off and smash each other and then hug at the end of it.
Yeah, that is crazy, right?
But we do that. We find these are these sublimated ways of being appropriately dealing with aggression, and competition is a subset of aggression, I think, or can be.
Yeah, and that's why I like hockey, having that like outlet for it.
Yeah.
I just also
push yourself. You go up against other people who are pushing themselves.
I love that. I feel like it's an outlet for this feeling that I sit with all of the time. And on a day-to-day basis, I have to spend so much energy calming it down and like keeping it caged up, and then it's almost like, okay, can you just let me out for an hour and a half and I can just, which again, I'm not like an aggressive person, but it's hard to describe. It's like I spend so much time filtering my thoughts when I'm being annoyed or I feel annoyed or something like that, where it can be so exhausting. What I love about hockey is like, I can kind of run with feelings of aggression, granted up to a certain point. But I wish I was less irritable. I wish I was more like, hey, okay, you hit me in the foot. Like, I get it. Maybe say you're sorry, maybe you don't. But
was that your first experience with this particular player?
Yeah.
Doing stuff like that?
Yeah. Didn't know the guy. First time meeting him. And he was a good player. And I told him afterwards, I was like, hey, man, I know you feel like we all kind of ganged up on you, but I hope you come back because you're a really good player.
Okay, so he's learning the rules of that particular league as well, perhaps, correct. Right?
He definitely felt on guard because the second I confronted him, like other people joined in. So I'm sure he felt threatened by multiple people.
The outsider. I mean, he's joining a new system or joining a new
But he should have known better. Like, he clearly played all of his life. You don't do that in pickup hockey. Especially when you're really good, way better than everyone else, and have a cannon of a slap shot. Like, there were 6 people in front of him, and in his brain, he was like, well, maybe it'll get to the net. It's like, no, he knew it was going to hit someone, and he didn't care. And he did it anyway.
Getting riled up.
Yeah.
Just talking about it.
I was so annoyed.
But you are right now, too.
Yeah. But also, I feel better having talked to him. And he apologized, like I said, in the locker room. He's like, I really didn't mean to hit you. I'm sorry. I was like, dude, it's all good. But if you do it again, I swear to God.
All right.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that my wife doesn't understand. But when I have played basketball and I get into fights with friends of mine, not like fisticuffs or anything, but just the guy's a jerk or he plays too hard or he's not understanding the rules of this particular system. And then, I thought you didn't like that guy, and then I'm talking to him friendly, at a church meeting or something like that, or run into him in the store, and hey, this is the guy who played basketball. Is that the guy who saves fouls you all the time? Yeah, he does, but that's just in this place. It's relegated to this certain area of my life and certain circumstances, and then it's done when I'm not there.
More reassuring to frame it up against those like extremes, right? Like MMA or something like that. Even in hockey in the NHL, they fight. Enforcers will fight, and then you'll see them immediately after the fight, like shake hands or pat each other in the back or something like that.
The handshake line at the end of the game.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's also just kind of crazy to think that that's just always going to be there, and that maybe it's okay that it's there. What's not okay is, or I guess it's up to all of us to decide what is okay and what is not okay, but I mean, our how we respond to the kind of primal
Yeah.
whatever is much more important than it being there in the first place.
Well, I think it's there for everyone. I think
That's my concern is like, it's only there for me. I have a problem. This is an Alex thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm on board with that.
Yeah, that makes me feel better. I mean, knowing that you fight people when you play basketball as an adult with kids, like that makes me feel better.
Yeah. I'm a big fighter. I'm a lover, not a fighter, Alex. No.
So do you dunk on? Can you dunk? You probably can't dunk.
No.
I mean, you're tall. How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Yeah. Okay. No, can't dunk.
I have small hands. I can't grab the ball.
Would you describe yourself as good at basketball?
I would describe
Proficient?
myself as I was a decent player. I have certain elements of the game that I do.
Did
that
you
I
play
have
as
done
a
well.
kid?
I learned later on in life, and
Yeah, same with hockey with me. That's cool.
But I don't play as much. I probably shouldn't be playing at all. I've had some orthopedic
It's hard on the knees,
injuries.
isn't it?
It's hard on my knees.
Yeah.
Hard on my fingers. There's
Yep.
a little finger action on.
What is that?
Oh, it's basketball fingers. You know.
Whoa! It's your pinkies.
Both pinkies, yeah, kind of jacked up.
Yeah, and that is from just getting fouled and stuff.
Fouled. Yeah, hit with
Wow.
the ball.
Wow. You know, basketball and hockey are very similar in terms of style of play and like schemes and things like that. I feel like in terms of levels of exercise too, I feel like a lot of people don't understand how exhausting basketball is.
Yeah, and I think hockey's even probably more exhausting.
Played pickup basketball. Maybe it's just because I do not train in that. I don't do it frequently. I was just tired.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize you're constantly running. Whereas in hockey, you can like glide around for a little bit. You can be more judicious with your
I don't
energy.
know. I look at hockey and I think they're always running all the time. They're always going.
I mean, they're very similar in terms of.
Like in basketball, you don't come off every 2 minutes.
That's true. Well, exactly.
In organized stuff, you're
I can't imagine
full
running
speed for 2 minutes.
back and forth, like for extended periods of time.
Right.
It'd be exhausting. All right. Well, so I'm not crazy, and I don't.
Well, hey, I didn't
You didn't say
I didn't say that.
It's just weird because like when I'm out there, I seem to be one of the few guys who's like throwing down, so to speak. And so I'm like, ooh, is this a me thing?
So in one of our other meetings, we talked about having people in your circle of friends who can be honest with you, who can, So you might want to go to some of your hockey buddies and say, hey, am I that
Do you
that
think
guy?
I'm a hothead?
Am I a hothead out here? Am I the guy? I feel like I'm always willing to throw down. Is that like, am I the douche out here that's that's being this way?
I feel like if I were to ask people, and I will, but I think what they'll say is, I mean, I definitely do not go out seeking conflict. I really just get triggered when I see other people bullying other people or being a dickhead. Granted, I shouldn't be looking at myself as judge, jury, and executioner, right? But like, I typically am riled up when I see someone being an asshole. And then I'm like, well, I'm not going to let you continue to do that. You need to know, you need to at least experience some kind of like barrier, and whether or not you choose to plow through it, that's on you. But you need it shouldn't be this easy for you. You don't get a free pass.
My guess is that in most leagues, there's that person who fouls more or plays harder than they need to or something.
Yeah,
And
that's
they're-
not me.
And they're talked about afterward.
Yeah, there definitely are.
So
I can't imagine. It would be funny if someone's like, yeah, that number 21, that tall, lanky guy, he plays so dirty.
guy needs to be in therapy.
Yeah.
I got news for you.
Yeah. No, I like to look at myself more as like the Punisher. I'm like the Avenger.
The
right?
Punisher. Okay.
I am
the
a man
Robin-
of
the Robin Hood.
justice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which again, it's so funny because my build is so non-threatening, but I'm so quick to confront people. I'm like that little dog, right? That runs up and barks, and then all of a sudden it realizes the other dog's like 10 times its size, and it's like, oh no, what are we going to do from here?
So that's a protective kind of instinct, for lack of a better word, that you have.
Yeah.
So when you see injustice, you feel like you want to right it or you want to stand up to it.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it sounds like you were saying when I see it happening to other people, so somebody getting picked on or somebody somebody who's being jerky to somebody else, then I really feel it.
Yeah. Yep. I get most triggered when I see somebody taking advantage of a situation, or someone's like, the word that keeps popping up in my head is, well, someone should do something. Someone should say something. And it's like, okay, I'll do it. And sometimes I have no problem. And I have to stop myself even to be like, dude, don't say anything. This is not your fight. Like I was at a Jersey Mike's sub, delicious subs.
Sponsorship.
Yeah. And there was this mom with her kid, and she was just being such a dick to she was swearing at her. The kid was probably like 3 years old. She's dropping F-bombs at it. And then she started yelling at the staff because they were slow. Granted, I don't know how this is possible, but she didn't know how to order a sub. Like I listened to her. She made it the most confusing thing ever. And it's a sub. Like, how do you do that? And they were doing their best, and she was yelling at him, and she was just be like, I want a refund. I want a discount. The service is awful. You guys are stupid. And I was just so close to being like, ma'am, like you need to shut the fuck up. Like, shut up. Stop. And I was considering whether or not to do it. I ultimately decided not to do it because I was like, well, that's not going to end well for me. Like I could just already tell she does not she wants someone to throw down with, basically.
She looks like she needs a hug.
Yeah, right? But like those are examples. I always get in other people's business if I feel like something, is going wrong that way. Someone should say something. Yep, okay, I'll do it. I think I get that from my dad, but also not a lot of people, but there are people who be like, Alex, that's none of your business. Don't get involved.
It's hard not to make it your business when that same part of your brain is noticing these things. Like when we're programmed, from a survival place to pay attention to things that might be a threat to us. So if you hear aggression, and your brain is going to attend to aggression, whether it's on
That's
a TV
true.
show or whether it's at a Jersey Mike's. You can't turn that off. That's not a character flaw. I'm paying attention. And if you're somebody who naturally is protective of other people, or has an eye for injustice, or that scenario is like prime pickings for you to attend to.
That makes a lot more sense to me.
Like if there were like the base of our brain, right? We're gonna pay attention to sex. We're gonna pay attention to aggression. Surprisingly, we were gonna pay attention to humor too.
Yeah.
So if there was something sexual going on, it would be hard for your brain not to turn and look or attend to it.
Yep.
And we're wired to protect the species and to proliferate the species, to have the species carry on,
and to entertain the species.
Apparently,
that bodes well for me that those are the three things, because that's like describing Alex in a nutshell.
Okay. Sex, violence, and humor.
That's my brand. No.
Which was what I wanted to call this podcast.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was already taken.
It's already taken.
Yeah, which makes sense. Every time I watch the news, there's that old trope, right? That the news is just, they prey on what people respond to, which is anger or like frustration. There is a lot of hatred and anger in cult, like society, and it can be exhausting to be like triggered all of the time. But okay, good. So I'm not like, well, granted, I want my top brain to be more, I want to listen to my top brain more. What is it called?
The neocortex.
Yeah, the neocortex.
The new brain.
The new brain.
The new center.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I want to listen to the new brain more, but I also like the fact that I have that kind of instinct.
I think that's the biggest trick for a lot of people, is when you're getting activated, when you're getting triggered from a survival standpoint. And sometimes, like when we're in a relationship and we're fighting with a partner, a loved one, a kid, whatever, our brain codes those, like elevated voice, and brain codes those as you're under attack. And so we have to sometimes talk ourselves down. Okay, I'm not under attack. This is a kid who's being dysregulated. He's my son. He's not going to attack me, or whatever. This is my wife, my girlfriend.
Yep.
I'm not physically at harm's way, but my brain is telling me that. So I need to override my defense mechanisms of attacking, of putting up my wall, and I need to try and use my words. I mean, that's emotional regulation right there.
Yeah. It is interesting that a child can trigger the same response that an adult could trigger, right? Like the stimulus is vastly different, but the reaction is the same. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to fight this grown man. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to fight this little kid. Whoa, wait a minute. Don't do that, Alex.
Right, not with the kid.
Yeah. That is fascinating. But such is, I feel like society would benefit from acknowledging the fact a little more frequently that we're animals. You know, I feel like we treat ourselves like we're this other entity, all knowing, we're evolved, which is true.
Yeah, right.
Depending on what one believes. However, we still have a lot of things in common with animals.
Right.
And I feel like just acknowledging that more often and thinking about that more often would be good for society. Because people are like, oh, why is there so much conflict? It's like, well, wait a minute. You know, animals, that's a kind of conflict is sort of a primal instinct. Maybe if we consider the fact that that's embedded in our brain,
it's there somewhere.
We can figure out ways to healthily deal with it every day instead of letting it build up, and then have a world war.
Yeah, right.
I heard a crazy quote. The BBC did a thing they love. I mean, this is a perfect example of preying off of anger. But they're interviewing all of these people in Middle America who are basically saying if Biden wins the election again, there's going to be a civil war. They're interviewing those types of people. And they're asking them like to elaborate. And they're like, this one guy was like, well, I just think it would be good for us. It's like, you look what the Civil War did. You get a lot of anger out of your system. And I was just like, I bet you a lot of people look at, I wonder if geopolitical events are simply like, okay, we need a fight. Like, it's been a while. We're due for a scrap. Let's get it all out of our system. And that's kind of weird to think about.
Yeah. I'm not sure I share that philosophy, but
go on.
Well, I mean, I think in a previous session we talked about, I don't believe we have anger in a container inside of us, and we need to go play hockey and get it all out. And then my anger container is empty. And I think situationally we get triggered in some way, sad, hurt, lonely, scared. I get angry, secondary emotion, and then I have the opportunity to override and talk myself down. And people who are good at emotional regulation can do that. But people who have never learned how to emotionally regulate, they go off and they think, I've got to get this out of my system.
Yeah.
And
yep, I would agree with that. It's not, and I would say there's no guarantee you will feel any better after.
That's right. Or that it will quote unquote empty out of my container. Like I can rid myself of this anger.
You'll just fill up on guilt and shame afterwards, depending on what you've done.
Some might. There's many who won't, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I sure as heck am not, because I'm putting in the work, doing the work to be a mindful animal with my new brain, my fancy new brain. Yep.
Mindful Animal was also a title for the podcast that was taken.
I bet you there is a thing. You could Google it right now. I guarantee you that's
taken.
I guarantee you that's taken. There's so many podcasts. Don't get me started. All right. Well, that I think is a great place to stop today's session. So I want to thank you for affirming that I'm not a psycho, like angry guy, and that experiencing anger or aggression is normal, but what you choose to do with it is what really matters.
Yeah.
We don't have a sponsor to thank today. We could go with the chiropractors, but Chiropractors Association of America. But yeah. So any other last thoughts on your end?
No, emotion regulation.
Yep.
It's the thing that will save your relationships. It's the thing that will help you in the workplace. I mean, it should be something we teach people.
I was just gonna ask that.
In high school.
Yeah.
How do you keep your cool? How do you not lose your stuff?
Man, it is kind of sad that we don't teach that. So many things we do teach that just, like geometry. I mean, I would have much rather had emotional regulation classes over geometry.
Yeah, you need to know an isosceles triangle when you see one.
Yeah, right? Exactly. The only thing I remember is like the teacher being like, okay, this will help you play pool. I was like, oh, okay.
I wish I had got that.
Yeah.
I didn't even get that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Steve. Appreciate your help, your assistance, and I will catch you next session.
All right.
See you
See you
later.
then.
See you. Bye.